Hello, everybody. I wonder if everybody's having a good Monday or not. My life has gotten to the point that there really is no difference between Monday and any other day. They're all the same. So I'm having a fantastic day. I just wanted to, before I start the first official lesson of the school year, to make the announcement that obviously I came on yesterday and talked about manifestation and how I had been manifesting really without my knowledge for the majority of my life. But I talked about the 2022 when I really started to consciously try to do it more positively, and the effects that it's had on kind of unlocking a lot of hidden truths and potential within myself that I didn't know had previously existed. So I wrote basically like the very beginner's course lesson today and posted it earlier, which I also had some of my paintings to use as a visual guide for that post. So if anybody's interested in kind of getting the basics of that, I recommend reading that. And then I posted, what we listen to, how much that affects our mood, and basically just being able to vibrate at a higher frequency when we're happy listening to music with a positive message, how much that actually impacts things. So I have a little post about that using a Jack Johnson song, Upside Down. So yeah, if you're interested in the things I'm talking about, definitely check those things out. But yeah, I think, as I've been saying all weekend, that it was time to let go of me just basically being in survival mode and bringing up my situation. I'm done going into the past, and like I said, I know those things are being taken care of. It's just going to take some time. So this is me trusting the universe and just going about with what I can control and sharing useful information with the masses, which is part of my purpose. So I figured I might as well start class. And today is going to be the first lesson, which I feel like I have a vision for this week. I want to talk about different figures throughout time and their ideas and how they've influenced my own ideas. And I was going to start with Plato today. But one thing that I've said time and time again is that I'm always flexible and able to adapt. So if for some reason something occurs or I get some sort of, download that or urge to talk about something else this week, maybe I'm not tied to any of these, but my plan is to focus kind of on the foundation with some other figures who had interesting ideas and how they're still relevant and should be studied today. So before I get into Plato, I've done this long enough now, and I know the playbook that the other side operates from. they've already gone to it for, trying to basically like use my past against me to make people not think that I'm qualified or have anything of value to add. Then they did the he's crazy storyline where they try to discredit me because of, I'm not being myself and I'm going against traditional standards, so I must be out of my mind. Then they attacked my finances and tried to use scare tactics. If you look at all of these people that are actually talking and saying things that have significant value in this world, it's the same formula every time that they use. They just go down the checklist to try to shut that person up. But I've reached a point where I think it's clear that if they could, they already would have. So the next thing, I'm pretty sure they will try to put out there to turn people against me, is that I want to be some cult leader or something like that, which is absurd, because what cult I literally, like, what I've been talking about is that I can't even get people to talk to me or help me. So I don't have like minions who I'm somehow benefiting off of. I'm somebody who's basically experiencing something, learning about this world, and like, I'm not using anybody to get anything of my own. I'm not making any money off of any of this. The biggest thing is encouraging people to educate themselves and to learn about themselves and make their own decisions. I'm not saying you have to agree with anything I say. So I'm not sure what... They're very good spin doctors, though. They have a way of twisting and manipulating, cherry picking certain things to scare people. So, if you actually listen or follow or enjoy the things that I'm saying, you get basically like outcast as well. So, I can't stop that from happening, but before it almost definitely does, I figured I would just clear it up proactively. I don't react to things. I already know what they're going to do most of the time at this stage. None of it's going to work. I am more confident than ever with what the bigger picture looks like and what role I'm meant to play. So in addition to doing the posts to help you guys just like on a daily basis, and do the videos to kind of like teach whatever subjects I feel like talking about throughout the week, I have significant amount of other work that I'll be doing in the background, which, just talking about learning lessons, still, I've finally learned the lesson that there's some things that I just should keep to myself. So what that thing is that I'm working on, nobody is aware of, and I'm going to keep it that way for a while until I decide it's time to talk about it. So anyway, yeah, I have plenty to do to keep me busy. So I'm in no rush for this stuff to play itself out. But, you know, I'll be being productive and working towards a better future while these people on the other side are hanging on by a thread, trying to prevent something that's going to happen anyway. So, real quick, I just wanted to read the actual definition of a cult. So, a cult is a system of religious worship, a group that exhibits extreme devotion to a person, idea, or thing. So, like I said, I'm not asking anybody to pledge their allegiance to me. You don't even have to listen or watch anything or read anything I do. If it's not for you, perfectly okay. So, I guess you might be able to, it's a stretch, but say that the idea of going inward, like the idea of sitting by yourself and just questioning things and trying to find who you are, if that's an idea, then I guess maybe I fit some of the criteria, but I feel like that's one of many, many ideas that I will talk about and that I may or may not even believe. The idea isn't to push my belief system on to people. It's about presenting all different types of ideas from all different times throughout history. It's all different disciplines, and how if you actually connect the dots and go see the through lines, there's common threads that actually are explaining the same things in different languages. Everybody's searching for the same answers and are actually, we have them, but it's the division keeping us apart, because if you are religious and believe in this, like, you then must be against the scientific method and things like that. It's like everybody's looking for the same thing, and if we just are more open-minded to the ideas that the answers are out there, you just might have to use some elements to a lot of different I'm just saying, like, the answers aren't all in one place, put it that way. They spread across a lot of different, I guess, like, platforms, you might say. Whatever you're into, if you're a scientist or if you're a psychologist or a philosopher, you know, these ideas they're describing the same things in different ways. So, as I said, like, I'm a bridge. One of my roles is being a bridge. So, in the sense, like I said yesterday, about going from this world we know currently to a new world, I can bridge that gap. But I can also bridge the gap between people who are so stuck in certain belief systems that they exclude others, when if they included some of that, they could actually possibly fill in the blanks to the missing pieces that they've never understood in their own belief system. And just like with Team Up for Hope, the whole fundamental principle was teaming up together. So the motto was, we can fight this battle alone, we can fight this battle together, but we must do the work alone. Meaning, we can come together, even with our differences, to basically explore and learn more about what this is all is about. But when we find what that is, like, we have to put in the work on ourselves. Like, I can't do the work for anybody else, nor do I want to. And what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody. But one of my, I think something that differentiates me from a lot of people is I spent my whole life having to go back to the drawing board and try something a different way when it didn't work the first time. I'm very used to going back to the drawing board. So if I'm trying to present information one way that people don't seem to be registering or understanding, if it's an important message I feel like needs to be understood, or I'm supposed to wake people up to certain truths. So I'll know when I start doing that. So if something doesn't land, I'll be guided to keep going down that path until it clicks for more people. So I'm not stuck. It's flexibility. I'm not stuck in any one place. I'm always going to adapt and move and do whatever is required to get the result that I'm looking for. So, I guess you could say that's like the phrase, leave no child behind type of philosophy is, we want people to understand this. So we'll keep trying to present it in different ways until the people who actually want to get it, So to go back to the cult thing, it talks about, so I'm not religious. It has it's spiritual elements, which for a while I probably won't even talk about all that much, or at least dive that deep into it. That's comes naturally the more we go down the path. So I'm not religious worship. Definitely no extreme devotion to a person or a thing. Like, again, that's kind of vague. Regardless, doesn't matter. But, that's culture is the biggest cult that there is. Like, our society, the whole thing is a cult in a way that they are trying to tell us what ideas and people and things that we're supposed to worship. But if you look at the Catholic Church, for instance, based on that definition, you could say that the beliefs that came before Christ was the accepted way, and they formed the cult. Like, they don't have a monopoly on what we are allowed to believe. So I figured it's a good place to start would be Plato, who lived 427 to 347 BCE, which, for anybody who doesn't know what BCE stands for, it's can refer to before Common Era, before Current Era, or before Christian Era. So, believe it or not, there was a time where people believed different things. Like, we call it ancient civilization. They want us to believe that these people were so stupid and they had no they couldn't have been more advanced than we are now. And yet all the evidence just exists that they were capable of doing things far greater than we can do now. I don't know how you can look at some of the things from the past and tell me that, oh, slaves. Like, let's be honest, we live in a slave society right now, and we still can't build that stuff. If we wanted to build it, we just pay our slaves the bare minimum to work. There's no difference. Like, we still don't know how to do it because we're not finding the answers in the right places. So, what Plato believed came before the figure we know as Jesus Christ. So, I've said it many times that the things I'm saying aren't new. These aren't, I don't claim to be some revolutionary genius. I'm just literally one of many people throughout history who cracked the code or solved the puzzle or found the keys. And I just happen to live in a time where the landscape of modern society is at this place where I guess it's time for a shift back to some of these ideas that we've drifted so far from. So, yeah, I guess this week, one of the things that I hope the takeaway is going to be is that all these things I say have existed, have been believed for as long as we can document them and go back. And, I find that things that are typically, like, if people use it for that long, there's usually some value in it. So, I want to talk about Plato and his influence on, and a lot of this stuff too, like, I don't always, know the history about all these people, but it's just that thirst for knowledge. I talked about it before. It's like pulling the thread and then seeing where it takes you and uncovers it. Like, if you're in that mindset of wanting to learn, the universe will guide you to things that are worth learning. If you want to just sit there for 4 hours and not use your brain, then you're going to get people dancing the same song over and over again, and people trying to rage bait you with ridiculous videos and just feeding into your ego. Yet you sit there and watch, scroll from one to the next. You think that's what we're supposed to be doing? So, yeah, Plato didn't have that option. So, thankfully for civilization, he spent a lot of time by himself and actually went looking for answers. So, let me talk a little bit about. So, first off, he studied under Socrates, and then Aristotle was one of his students. So, speaking of bridges, those are kind of the big three of the Greek philosophers. So he was that bridge, like the keeper of certain knowledge and passed down to the next generation, which I just found interesting. So other than Socrates, some other names you might find familiar. He was influenced by Pythagoras, who is most commonly known for the Pythagoras theorem, which a squared plus b squared equals c squared, with the triangle. But Pythagoras, maybe I'll cover him one day. Pythagoras he might have had somewhat of a cult, but they were big into numbers. Yeah, maybe I will share his stuff one of these days. He was a big believer in the power of numbers, and I guess I'll probably do like numerology at some point, and maybe that's a good time for him. But in addition to Pythagoras, obviously Plato was influenced by Homer, who was the author who a lot of the Greek mythology that we know was written by, I think, the Iliad and things like that. But I've always been drawn to specifically Greek mythology, but world mythology in general. I've gotten more into Egyptian mythology, which I'm going to actually cover tomorrow with Isis. So Egyptian mythology influenced a lot of what Greek mythology came to be. Like Thoth from Egyptian mythology became Hermes in Greek mythology. So, like I said, these ideas got passed down from different cultures at different times throughout history. And these are the civilizations that we still talk about as the great ones throughout history. And these ideas were known. And this is before the traditional ideas about religion and, what everything means was put out there. So, yeah, I figured the first 2 days it's good to talk about before things were the way we know them. So let me just tell you a little bit about, and I'm not going into the huge deep dives on all this stuff. I'm just putting out the most basic summaries of these people. And if you are interested, you can do your own homework and look into their ideas more, and you don't have to just do it for the stuff that you're interested about or want to know more about. You don't have to spend all your time trying to learn about this stuff. But obviously Plato, famous philosopher, and his most famous book was The Republic, where he talked about kind of his belief of what a perfect, ideal society looked like. I don't know, I guess the word utopia, that might actually be of Greek origin, but basically it's his idea of a utopia and how politics play into that. But basically his philosophy, as simple as I can put it, was that there should be philosopher kings. Not kings who were ruled by the ego and that want and need for power and control, but people who were enlightened and would run it, making the choices that were the best for the common good. So it was about educating and teaching the rulers the philosophies that actually made them qualified to rule. A lot of philosophers have the knowledge and are the most qualified to rule, but they don't have that real desire to do it because you're wasting time and energy doing the stuff that takes you away from the things you really are doing that makes you who you are. So it was more of the idea of teaching the people who would then go on to lead when they were at a level where they understood, and then they could go and rule most effectively. I don't know that we have anything like that in this day and age, but it is, maybe the Skull and Bones or whatever secret societies that they don't share with us what goes on there. So, not really the same thing if it's not transparent. You got to think there's a reason for that. When people want to hoard information and knowledge and things like that, it's usually not for your own good. I'll just put that out there. So anyway, here's what he's best known for, is his theory of forms, where, let me see, put it in his own words to do him justice. So the Republic talked about vision for a just and ideal society, philosopher kings. So basically what I was saying about teaching the people who are going to rule the way that things really are, so that they can rule most effectively. And he believed in two realities: the ideal, which is basically a perfect reality of existence. Okay, so he's idealist, talking about like his idea is to have this become the perfect society. So where would he get those ideas from? So based on him being a philosopher and spending a lot of time by himself, I'd have to imagine he goes inward and he's getting guided to do the work that he was doing. And his vision for an ideal society is actually the universe's vision for what a society actually looks like. So basically, if you put it in like the context of what I was talking about in one of my posts the other day about the 5D reality versus the 3D reality, like right now the 3D reality is a mess. It's chaotic. And up in the 5D, our higher selves are trying to tell us how to fix it. I just happen to listen, just like Plato did. There's others who I'm sure are listening and have missions and things that they're working on that I don't know about right now, that are in line with what I'm doing, but right now I'm just filling my role in the bigger picture, the higher perspective of things. So while everybody else is still out there living in the world that we know it as of now, at some point when I'm needed, we don't have to scramble for the solutions. There will be people out here that have been doing the work the whole time who are ready to step up when you need it. Like, I don't think I have any real interest in like dealing with all of the stress and nonsense of working with all these other people to do stuff like that. I think my role is doing the things that I'm doing now. It's like allowing me to seek out the answers and find them, and then when the time's right and new people need to start leading us, people who aren't corrupt and out for their own interests, we have a system that actually can make decisions that aren't just for their own self-interests. Think of it this way, like, how did Al Capone get taken down and, like, fight the mob? You might have heard of the Untouchables, who Elliot Ness was the leader of the Untouchables. The reason that finally they could take him down was Elliot Ness was uncorruptible. They couldn't get to him. So he wasn't going to stop until he figured out a way to bring them down. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the RICO Act came from, like, that finally was the way that they brought them down. Instead of trying to pin the murders on them and stuff, they followed the money. So always follow the money, just on a side note. But, yeah, I guess you could consider me, when I say the glitch in the matrix and stuff, like, I'm kind of the Elliot Ness of not being corrupted by this society. I've had plenty of opportunities to do the wrong thing when it came to ethics or morals. I've shot myself in the foot many times as a realtor when I could have easily made a sale and sold somebody something that I knew wasn't what's best for them. And I gave them my honest opinion and told them not to do it. Like, that's why I'm put in the position that I'm put in, is because these were tests the entire time. And I continued to pass them even when I was at my lowest, and it would have been easier to take different approaches. But that's the type of leadership that we need. So, I don't have political aspirations or anything like that. I'm talking more of, we need to find these people and make sure that they understand the truth. I know there's a lot of people out there, they just haven't discovered the information that they need. But that's what I'm doing this for. So yeah, we have the ideal, and then the phenomena is the other reality. Basically, the 3D that we exist in now. The physical world that we experience is a flawed echo of the perfect. So, this is Plato, 400 years before Christianity, talking about basically like the ideal versus the current, and his idea of the philosopher kings. Really, a lot of similarities, if you ask me, about what I didn't know this was all Plato's ideas. I honestly don't remember why I chose Plato today, but I said, let me look at Plato. And it exactly, immediately knew the reason why I looked deeper in. I knew his allegory of the cave, but I didn't know much about the Republic. But his allegory of the cave is basically everything I'm talking about. It's questioning the reality. If anybody doesn't know what the allegory of the cave is, like, you should explore it more. But basically, the simplest, quickest way I can explain it is there's prisoners in a cave. There's a projection of a 2D reality on the wall. So their backs are turned to the projection on the wall, and what they know to be reality is this. It's when somebody comes in, they can see the shadow displayed on the wall, and they think this is reality. Well, one of the prisoners escapes out of the cave and basically sees the 3D world as we know it. And he goes back to the cave and tries to explain it to the other prisoners. And they obviously think he's crazy. To them, this is reality and they can't comprehend anything different. So he's basically saying, we're living in this 3D world that we think is reality, but he saw the truth. He saw what it actually is. He broke out of the illusion that existed even back then. I mean, pretty much the exact same thing that I came to just by going inward and going through my own life experiences. So the universe is basically guiding people to spread the same message now as they were 400 years before Christianity ever existed. And Jesus Christ, if you're a Catholic churchgoer or whatever, like, he was a man who went inward and believed the same stuff. The Catholic Church, as we know it, it's not what Jesus Christ taught. What Jesus Christ was pushing is the same thing. It's just being put in a box. I use the term all the time. People get put in the box and they can't break out of it to see that we just accept what somebody says to us as reality, and it gets programmed and conditioned into us. We're not questioning to the level that we need to when we are in elementary school growing up. Like, we didn't have access to all the information we do now. There were just certain things that I knew to be true back then that turns out, as I got older and experienced more, it turns out that my intuition and me going inward back then was 100% right. Like, I believed that none of this was the way that made any sense. The school systems, the church, just everything being so much harder than I thought it had to be. I now understand why that is. And it sounds like, Plato in his time was dealing with the exact same thing, like seeing a society that he didn't understand and knowing that there's a better way to do it. So what did he do about it? He started the academy, which is basically like considered the first university. So his goal or mission that he, I guess, concluded to at that time, that his life path was to teach others and educate. So starts up the first university with the idea that, the people who were in line to lead would, at the very least, could come and he could spread his ideas for what the better world looks like. So, yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Oh, so I guess I'll just briefly, I talked about ISIS. That was what I was thinking for tomorrow. And then I thought I would do a couple of figures that are a little bit different, but more recent, in Carl Jung, who is really like my most, if you want to ask me who influenced me more than anybody, it would be Carl Jung and his work. Like we'll get to it this week, but yeah, specifically, like that's where it all starts with me. He was the one who, it seemed like every idea or thing I believed or thought, when I went looking for more on it, Carl Jung always has something about it that just resonates with me. It's just like, yep, he was on the same frequency and path and was doing the same stuff back in the early 1900s that I'm doing in the world today. And you'll notice a common thread amongst all the figures that I talk about too, like just how they spent like these long periods in isolation by themselves, seeking these answers, and then dedicating their lives to like try to form and put it out there for the world. So, and their struggles to do so. So the other one, Nikola Tesla, who was brilliant. So Carl Jung too had the Red Book that I think was in like 1913 or something. He started basically journaling his observations, and he kept it up for several years. It was basically his documenting of his journey that parallels kind of what I've been doing, documenting my observations and journey. But somehow it didn't come out to the public. I think the book got published in 2009 or something. So for almost 100 years, somehow like that almost got lost, this extremely valuable piece of literature that could help people. Just who knows what the reason behind that. Somebody had it, but another person who had a fight trying to get his ideas to be believed was Nikola Tesla, who I'll talk about this week. He has a 369 method that he used to talk about. If you understood that anything was really possible. And, you know, a lot of people theorize that he was taken out by the FBI and all his files were stolen. I think maybe Donald Trump's like uncle or something might have been involved in that, if I remember. But regardless, it doesn't matter. I don't really care about that. But the big thing is he was working on trying to provide free energy. And I think he knew how to do it. I think that's probably what the pyramids actually are. Providing free energy to the world. But, you know, obviously JP Morgan, who was financing him, and his friends who profit off of charging the people to use energy, didn't like that. So they tried to ruin him, rip down his, like, Edison too was like his competitor with the race for electricity, and he was sabotaging him. Like Tesla had a rough path, but turns out that a lot of, I'll have to look for when I cover him more in depthly, but I'm just going off the top of my head on stuff I already know about him. I just know that like so many of his inventions were like 80 years ahead of his time, and we just got introduced to some of them. So you got to think this guy had all this technology that he had untapped and discovered and could actually bring to life. But there's a narrative and a plan that the people in power like to follow. It's the same reason that we have to buy a new charger every time an Apple product comes out. They convince us, oh yeah, it charges more efficiently. Like, yeah, okay. It's just basically like functional obsolescence. Like, why is everything this day and age built to break? Like, we had the technology in the 40s and 50s to build something that would last literally forever. Like a refrigerator or something from the 40s could probably last multiple generations. But for some reason, the quality of things have gotten worse. And plans and things for technology that could have changed the world back then just got sat on for 80 years or 100 years or however long, so that they could just slowly bring us along, charging us more and more money every new thing that they introduce that's better than the last thing, but the best things already exist. We just don't know about it. They're just holding it back from us until they get to profit 10 times instead of just the one time. That's the greed and the people at top, how they just continue to basically control the masses and deplete the funds so that they can use us to work for them and get them richer, making the stuff that we have to buy from them. That's crazy. That's not the society that was intended. Like, yeah, democracy and capitalism is great and everything. Okay. Like, there has to be some standards and guidelines, though. If everybody's corrupt and just in it for their own personal interest and have no loyalty to anybody, it's the Wild West. Like, it doesn't matter right or left, black or white. Like, I don't see color. I don't see or care to dispute you on your political affiliation. I'm asking to just use your independent thinking to say, like, it doesn't really matter which party is in charge of running our country. Who's running them? Because those are the people for years and years and years get to stay on top. Not the guys who come and go in 4 or 8 years. And if they push back, they just get exposed because everybody has skeletons in their closet. They can literally at any time just set somebody up for doing the same stuff that all of them are doing. That's the truth. That's the world. That's how the systems work. Like Plato, there's a more ideal way to do things. It's not far-fetched. It's not out of reach. Like, it's very much within the possibility. It's just like the Jack Johnson song. We just need to turn everything upside down. I'm not a revolutionary or, like, storm the castle. I'm the opposite of that. It's like we can, with our minds, create it. We have the power and the ability, if we can actually come together, to change it. It is not a pipe dream or a far-fetched thing. It's what Plato knew. It's what I know. It is absolutely doable. But the hard part is you have to shift from that belief that nothing's wrong with you and that you don't make a difference. Why try? I don't make a difference. That's not true. That's a lie that somebody told you at some point and you started believing. We all matter way, way more than we realize. And like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. If we all just did that, we would see that change. It would happen. That's not me just saying it. It's a universal truth that I know to be true. Unfortunately, a lot of people in that process are going to talk about me being on my high horse. Not the case. They are the ones who gallop around thinking that they're better than everybody. But it would require a lot of those people to fall off of those horses. But why are we protecting them? Like, why are people that are also getting taken advantage of and used and manipulated and lied to feel that they need to protect these people? You don't have to be afraid. They're not as powerful as they think that they are. The time is approaching where I think that's going to start becoming more and more clear. And I don't know. The reason I've spent the last several years doing my work and trying to do my part to bring that better world into reality. I can't force anybody to make that decision if you want to be a part of that side or the side that realizes that they ignored all of this stuff and kept acting in a way that goes against everything that God or your higher self or the universe wants you to do. That's between you and your higher self. But I can tell you, I at least want it to be on the right side of history. Be the one that not jumping on the bandwagon when the better thing comes along. I'm going to be one of the creators there from the start, going through the hard times. Because like I said last week, you don't truly appreciate something until you go without it. I've gone without being able to truly be happy and enjoy life and understand what was happening until recently. It's one of those things that it just changes everything. Like, I appreciate and so grateful for this opportunity that we're given. Yet at the same time, it's something I struggled with at the beginning, knowing it and knowing that people just aren't open enough, or they're not going to see the opportunity they have right in front of their face. It was frustrating, but you know, as I grew, I started to understand more and more about that's just part of it. So I can only control what I can control. But yeah, I think we're getting closer and closer to the point where people are becoming a little bit at a time more and more willing to at least listen or read. Like, I actually noticed it was like a 300% difference in my like viewership of if I posted a photo versus just the plain text. And now it was only like a 75% difference. Like, more people were actually reading my text stuff, which is good. I think, you know, like I said, I know it's like hard for a lot of people to sit there. They're trying to do something mindless, to expect somebody to read an actual long form plain text post is a big ask. But if you follow along, I'm just building the foundation, and it's literally just going to keep rising higher and higher until, I mean, if you're open-minded enough to actually be reading it from a place of like curiosity, then you're going to know what I say is actually happening and is true. If you're reading it from a place of hate and jealousy and just getting mad at it, then obviously you're going to believe what you've always believed. But the point being is, I thought Plato was a good place to start, because yeah, this isn't new stuff. This stuff has existed from the beginning. There's been people out there trying to wake up people and get them to see it. So that just happens to be my character arc this time around. So once I do that, I move on and do other things as well. But for now, I just keep coming on and putting more information out there and waking up people one by one until we actually start seeing some change of how people treat each other, how we think about ourselves. Things start becoming a little bit, it's momentum. That's how things work. So the last guy I'll just quickly say is Spinoza, who was like around in the 1600s, who has a philosophy about God and nature that I found interesting. So those are the 5 that I was planning on for this week, and then probably switch to some other topic of discussion next week. But yeah, that's class for today. Hope everybody enjoyed it and maybe learned something. But love you all, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.